I never thought I'd find myself here, questioning everything I once believed. If you'd asked me just a day earlier, I would have laughed and brushed the idea away. And yet, sometimes all it takes is a single look, a breath, a heartbeat, for every wall you've built to crumble. That evening, it wasn't an explosion. It was a quiet liberation, a soft release, like a knot gently untying after years of tension. I wasn't afraid. Not this time. I was ready. The house was still, almost too still. The ceiling fan hummed a steady rhythm, casting soft shadows across the pale wooden floor. It felt as if everything around me already knew something inevitable was about to happen. When he looked at me, he didn't smile. He just held my gaze a little too long. I could feel the weight of all the words he couldn't say hanging on his lips, kept back by old fears, or maybe by pride. This hadn't begun that night. It had been unfolding for years, in small gestures that lingered too long, smiles that meant too much, silences thick with unspoken truths. That evening, I stepped out of my room. No words, no hesitation. The hallway glowed softly. He stood at the far end. Our eyes met, and I knew that everything we'd done to avoid this moment had finally fallen apart. He didn't move right away. His eyes searched mine, not with desire alone, but with something deeper, a fear of losing something fragile, something precious. He took a slow step forward. My back brushed the wall, and the space between us filled with warmth, almost tangible. But still, he didn't touch me. His hands hovered, trembling in hesitation, caught between stepping forward or retreating, speaking or staying silent. But some steps, once taken, change everything, and I was already across that line. He came closer, our breaths mingled. And just when I thought I knew what was coming, he whispered something unexpected. A whisper more powerful than a touch. "But I'll stop here. What do you think?" he said. "And you, what would you have done in my place?" If this story touched you, click like, subscribe, and share it. Your support means everything. My name is Rachel. I'm 41, living in a small town near Asheville, North Carolina, a quiet place surrounded by woods and mountains. After a painful breakup, I sought refuge in this wooden cabin, far from the noise. I work remotely as an editor, spend my mornings tending to the garden, and my evenings wrapped in silence. My life is simple. And then there's Daniel, 38, a carpenter. He lives 3 houses down. We met when he came to fix my porch railing. Since then, small rituals grew between us. Shared tea, long walks, soft glances. Always just friendship, but never less either. Until that night. That night changed everything. The days that followed were a strange mix of tenderness and unease. I went about my life, but every time I saw Daniel, my heart raced. He seemed just as shaken, more aware, more present, as if something invisible had shifted between us. One evening, I was reading on the porch when he passed by, a basket of vegetables in his hands. He smiled shyly, paused, and asked if he could sit for a while. I nodded. We sat in silence, but it wasn't an empty silence. It brimmed with everything waiting to bloom. He turned to me finally and said, "I haven't slept since that night." His voice trembled. "I keep thinking about you, but I'm scared." I closed my book. Scared of what? He looked away. Of being trapped in my past and not being able to give you what you deserve. That night, he told me about Elise, his former partner, who left without a word after 8 years. She had come back recently, saying she'd changed. He didn't know what to make of it. But then he said softly, "That night, I realized it's you I want, not a memory, not a ghost." It wasn't a grand confession, but it was real. And that's what I chose to hold on to. We started spending more time together. Small things at first, morning coffee, grocery runs, garden work. But every touch lingered. Every glance stayed a little longer. One night, under a light drizzle, he knocked on my door. He didn't speak. His eyes said everything. I opened the door. He pulled me into his arms. It was tender, uncertain, but full of truth. We didn't go further that night. We just held each other, fully clothed, hearts exposed. As days passed, we shared our doubts, our guilt, our hopes. Then one summer afternoon, I stepped into the yard in a purple robe, my hair damp from a shower. He was fixing the fence. He froze. I smiled gently. "Want a glass of water?" He nodded too quickly. I turned to go inside, leaving the door slightly ajar. Seconds later, he was in the kitchen. I felt him behind me before I heard him. When I turned, his eyes searched mine, unsure. "You're beautiful," he whispered. I didn't answer. I stepped closer. My robe slipped slightly off one shoulder. His fingers brushed my skin, slowly, gently, like tracing a promise. That was the beginning. We finally gave in, not to urgency, but to honesty. Every gesture was a vow, every breath a confession. There were no more unspoken words, only us, whole, alive. The night unfolded gently, each touch a revelation. His lips grazed my neck. I caught my breath. "Is this okay?" he whispered. I nodded, guiding his hand to my back. We laughed softly, and even that felt like release. We moved together slowly, as if learning a new language. Every kiss, every sigh, carried meaning deeper than words. Later, wrapped in candlelight, he held me close and said, "I feel safe here. I've never had that before." Days passed like a dream. Sometimes he stayed the night, sometimes not. He'd leave notes on the bathroom mirror. I'd make coffee like he'd always been there. Then one morning, Elise appeared outside his house, a suitcase by her feet. I watched from my window. He came out. They spoke for a long time. I don't know what was said, but in the end, she left, alone. That night, he came to me. He said nothing. He kissed me deeply, then rested his head on my shoulder. "It's over," he whispered. She understood, and so did I. The next weekend, we hiked through the Blue Ridge Mountains. We found a hidden trail near a waterfall, dipped our feet in the cold stream. He'd brought sandwiches and wine. We didn't say much. We didn't have to. We kept building, slowly, steadily. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in the quiet of this mountain town, we found something rare, something many spend a lifetime searching for. Peace. And you, do you believe we can truly start over, even when the past comes knocking? Tell me in the comments. If this story moved you, click like, subscribe, and share. See you soon.